Yeah, I'm Pete Bomer from Olympia, Washington, and this panel discussion is part of the Rethinking Society. And I don't know if people have been to other ones of these sessions, but a lot of this conference and many conferences on the left do a lot of stuff about criticizing capitalism, which is certainly important and worthy. But the question of alternatives, what kind of society we want, how do we get there, often gets a lot less attention. So a large part of tonight's going to be about some ways of thinking about, another world is possible. And we have two speakers, and we're going to leave a lot of time for discussion. So before I introduce Cindy Milstein to my right and Steve Shalom to my left, basically what we're going to do is Cindy is going to go first. She's going to talk for about 20 minutes. Then Steve's going to respond to her, and then you'll have a chance to answer back. And then we'll switch it. Steve will talk, Cindy will respond, Steve will have a quick response, and then we'll open it up for discussion for everybody here. And hopefully we'll have a lot of time for discussion. So Cindy Milstein is going to be talking about anarchist visions, politics, her own views, and she's from a leading member of the Institute for Anarchist Studies and a co-organizer of the Renewing Anarchist Tradition Conference. She's taught at the summer school known as Institute for Social Ecology that probably some people here are familiar with, has long been involved in anarchist theory and practice. Her book, Anarchism and Its Aspirations, was recently published by AK Press. It's really, really worthwhile person to hear. Turn it over to Cindy Milstein.
Thanks.
Okay.
I really want to thank the organizers of this whole track, and hope you go to other ones. I really like the format of counterposing ideas and also bringing more vision to Left Forum and by people who are also engaged in organizing work. So really want to thank people for putting this together, especially Chris, who I had lots of contact with right there. And would it be possible to open the door? I'm actually sick, and the last workshop I was got so hot and I almost passed out. If it is okay if we leave the door open, it's just
too noisy,
a breeze would be nice. Can you hear me? I'll try to talk. I'm just not feeling well, and I really almost completely lost it in the last workshop that I just was in. So if it gets noisy, we can close it. Okay, that would be nice. That's another option. Why do I have to yell loud and they have to? Okay. So there's an Institute for Anarchist Studies flyers on here, and it's a decentralized project trying to think more critically about the world, which is what, and reimagine the world, which is also what the Reimagining Society project is about. So I urge you to take those, and there's stuff if you want, but I'm also tabling downstairs for the Institute for Anarchist Studies if you want to come down and visit, and I encourage you to go down and visit in the gym all the radical publishers and political projects that have literature there, because it's kind of hidden away downstairs. I think there's actually a mingling thing after this from 7 to 8. Okay. I don't actually want to be like Cindy's talking about an anarchist politics. I actually want to be talking about a political vision, and to me, I actually don't want to relate what an anarchist politics would look like. I actually want to talk about what self-governance would look like. As an anarchist, I take that question really seriously, though, because for me, what's been so beautiful about anarchism is that it's spent a lot of time trying to understand how we get from here to there. How do we prefigure the world we want to see? And anarchism has historically been the political philosophy that has looked at, critiqued forms of hierarchy, exploitation, domination, but is best known as being opposed to capitalism and opposed to the state. So I think it behooves us to say, okay, what would it look like to have a society that moves increasingly toward a world without capitalism and increasingly a world without states? But the answer for me is a different form of social organization. So today the topic is what would replace top-down, inaccessible, non-participatory, representative, but actually increasingly non-representative hierarchical forms of power with forms of self-governance where we're actually making decisions. So the heart of the panel today is who has the power to decide what the world looks like, and how do we do that? How do we politically decide what the world would look like? I actually think that includes a lot of other questions like economics, society, cultural, like how do we make decisions? So I want to start off by saying, for me, one thing we might want to think about today is how do we move from here to there? So rather than present, I'm not going to present here's the final package of where we want to end up at. Because I think the whole point of self-governance is us deciding together how we want the world to look, and the process itself is the practice of getting there. Okay, does that make sense? So we're not just trying to get to self-governance by participating in how we would want the world to look. We're starting to self-govern because we're starting to decide how we want the world to look like. So there's many forms of how people think about getting from here to there, many of which happen in small scale, more collectivized, more, either local projects or affinity groups, which I'll get at toward the end of this. When did I start? So how much?
You have plenty of time.
Okay, I know, but I just wanted to kind of,
17 minutes.
okay, I just want to divide this sort of in half. Okay. But ultimately, to me, self-governance, when we get into the sphere of self-governance, we're actually talking about how do we make social decisions together for people that aren't necessarily like us, in places that we live together, in communities. But to get there, we're going to probably have to do that in our school, where we learn to self-govern our school, or how do we develop a book fair, or all these things. We're probably going to practice it on that level.